Thank you all for attending today. As you heard, my name is Dalton. I'm a senior research associate in Dr. Diego Learman's Coral Restoration Lab. But today I'm actually going to be talking about our citizen science program that we built out of the lab to hopefully see social change. So my time is brief. I will glaze over this and move right on to acknowledging all of the advancements that coral gardening and reef restoration have made in a relatively short amount of time, a number of which you've heard about in the last few days. However, a common criticism has always been that coral restoration distracts from meaningful action on climate change. So, our lab decided to use our coral restoration program as a platform for engaging the public through citizen science, with our hope being that we could better bridge science and society to hopefully promote that meaningful action on climate change that so many people are calling for. So to do that, we built Rescue Reef. Rescue Reef is our lab citizen science program trying to build both community and coastal restoration through education, collaboration, and of course, coral restoration. Now this program was established in 2015, and the crux of this program are our expeditions. So what is an expedition? Well, it's a half-day excursion where we meet with the general public in the morning for about a half-hour orientation overview on our methodologies. Then we're offshore. We're underwater at our coral nursery where these individuals work alongside our citizen scientists to actually maintain coral nursery trees and collect coral fragments before we're on a local reef restoration site. So these individuals, again, work alongside of our scientists to physically transplant the corals back onto the reefs. So it's very hands-on experiential. And actually on this very stage, 4 years ago, I presented on the first ever evaluation we did of our Rescue Reef program to determine if we were having educational impacts as well as ecological impacts. And our published paper was thrilled to report that we were seeing significant increases in perceived knowledge levels post-expedition. We captured that information from a survey that we distributed to all the citizen scientists to have them generally assess if they felt like they'd learned something from the experience. So we're excited to see those, and people were having a darn good time too, which was really great. We then wanted to figure out, all right, were they having a meaningful impact on the reef? So we did a paired study to transplant corals from our scientists as well as for the citizen scientists, and we're again very excited to see that there was no significant difference in those outplants, meaning that we were having both an impact on the reef and in the community, therefore saying there was an ecological impact. But this was also evident on the reef as they were transforming in as little as 1 year. But the year is now 2022, and we had been scaling up those activities ever since. So it was really important that we paused and looked back at all the activities we had carried out over that time to measure what was our long-term impact. Were we actually seeing social change in our community? So that's really the question that we wanted to address. So to do this, we created a new evaluation tool to try and measure that in different ways. First, we wanted to survey a control audience. So we distributed this survey to specifically non-participants, individuals that live in Florida but that had never heard of Rescue Reef. We then distributed the survey to what we called outreach participants. These are people we engaged through social media, public seminars, table events. We then used the historical data from all those expeditions we'd carried out and distributed post-expedition as our reference point. But then most importantly, we distributed a new survey to what we called latent citizen scientists. These were specifically people who had participated, but it had been over 1 year since they had been in the boat with us. So we wanted to see, were they maintaining some of those educational gains that we had hoped? So, first was just self-reported knowledge levels. How did they feel their knowledge levels were at? We set a benchmark of 4 for those knowledge levels, and here you can see that there was an increase post-expedition, and that it was largely maintained over time, all of which was in excess of the control group in terms of coral reef ecology. Then asking about their knowledge on the threats to coral reefs, once again you can see that there's an increase post-expedition that was largely sustained over time, which were nice indicators for us saying that these knowledge levels didn't disappear down the road. But we wanted to better assess their actual knowledge gains. So we asked open-ended questions to actually test them, with the first being, what are the largest issues facing coral reefs? So here you can see the suite of responses that they provided for the control group, after, which is post-expedition, and latent, which is down the road. Our control group answered pollution as the largest issue facing corals in the largest proportion. But interestingly, our latent citizen scientists answered both ocean warming and climate change in the highest degree. We dove deeper into this, and we're actually also able to show that over 60% of the latent citizen scientists were able to produce 2 or more responses. This was much higher than the control group, which we were excited to see. So similarly, we asked, all right, what ecosystem services do coral reefs provide? Once again, we had a suite of responses. The control group largely answered home and habitat to marine organisms, which makes sense. That's pretty straightforward. But we were excited to see that our latent citizen scientists actually answered coastal protection, and one of the highest proportions, much to a greater degree than their control counterparts. And once again, when looking at the raw number of responses they were able to produce in terms of ecosystem services, again, majority of the latent citizen scientists were able to produce 2 or more responses, which was really, really exciting. So then asking about their priorities in terms of coral conservation. We used Claypos et al. As our reference. These were actual scientists, experts, who determined what the most important actions for coral reefs were in those categories listed, and then polled both the control groups and the latent citizen scientists. Here you can see that the citizen scientists listed climate change as the #1 priority for coral conservation. In fact, the top 3 priorities listed by our citizen scientists were in the exact same order as the experts in that publication. So then we wanted to look at behavior. Really, that's the thing that we propose, is citizen science produces behavioral change. So here you can see that both in our outreach and our citizen science group, over 60% said that yes, they had had behavioral changes in their day-to-day lives because of interacting with Rescue Reef. So then trying to look more closely at what those behavioral changes might be, we saw that advocacy was the most common thing that people reported, with over 50 or 40% saying it now became coral champions for conservation. And you can see the other responses that were included in those open-ended questions. Then, most importantly to me personally, was about stewardship. What kind of relationship were we building with these community members? So we first asked them, how comfortable are you communicating about coral reefs? So here you can see both control and citizen scientists, again with our benchmark being 4, and there was a significant difference where our individuals were more comfortable talking about coral reefs than the control population. Moving on to contacting us. We wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable contacting us. So we asked, how comfortable are you contacting a coral conservation organization, similar to Rescue Reef, if you have a question. And once again, we saw significantly higher confidence in our both outreach and citizen science group. And then last but certainly not least was support. So how likely are you to support Rescue Reef or a similar coral conservation organization in additional ways, meaning volunteering, donating, advocating. And yet again, we saw that they were significantly higher, in fact, higher than the benchmarks that we had set, which were really strong indicators for us across the board. So with all those things in mind, when we're looking at the social impact of Rescue Reef long-term down the road, we feel confident in saying that yes, at our community level, we are having meaningful change with the individuals that we're interacting with because of everything that I mentioned previously. So to look at those, we saw that there were sustained knowledge levels over time. I'll just show that real quick there. Very impressive numbers. And so that can be a vehicle for change that we so desperately needed, evident in the March for Science, where we literally had to beg the general public to believe in science. So this 5-minute talk has a 12-minute version, so if you take a photo right now, you can follow that link to watch. And please reach out to me at any point if you have questions. Thank you so much.